I always imagine Comic-Con to be a place where someone introduced themselves to you in a very casual manner, but is dressed utterly ridiculous. You know, like, how you doing? How you doing? I'm Gary. And you're like, Gary, you're dressed like as a big, gigantic lizard.
You look like the Hulk right now. Yeah.
Am I supposed to take your question seriously? I'm not sure what to do with you. Yeah. Well, speaking of questions, I think we have some questions from the audience. Who has questions? 1 minute. 1 minute. We'll get the microphone to you in just a second.
Hi.
So, since the show is so large and they're very secretive when they're filming, for your character, do they tell you in advance what's going to happen to your character, or do you kind of just find out script to script when they hand it to you?
Specifically, it's much more script to script. I try and weasel out information from our writers because I'm too curious and I really want to know. They give us a general arc, so you do know where you're at least headed. Because it does start to inform the pattern of whether your demise is, positive or negative. And so that starts to seep into your subconscious a little bit. But in terms of the specifics, no, they keep it pretty script to script.
Were you surprised at how sort of tight-lipped everybody has to be on set? Because everyone kind of talks about that, but what's the actual feeling when you're around that?
Well, we have to wear like capes over our costumes and stuff. When we were first filming, they wouldn't let us walk around. And I thought that was so reserved to the Marvel comic books, those movies where it's like Captain America. Of course, you want him to be shielded.
Wearing jeans and a shirt.
But I was wearing jeans and a shirt, and I was like, really? But they totally wanted everyone covered up and. Yeah, and I think especially in Vancouver too, because that's where we were filming a lot of this, they know exactly all the locations, so they would just seek out. And so there's definitely a little bit of censorship. I kept forgetting my cape though, and I got in trouble for that a few times.
What kind of trouble do you get into?
They just you feel bad because you got someone then running around being like, can you just, this was in the car, and you're just, I'm so sorry. I just forgot, I'm wearing jeans.
Some young PA that's like, please, I don't want to get in trouble again.
A young PA. Oh.
I think we have a question right here. Who's here for our Kim Dickens interview, right?
Huge fan. I know that you have a history with music and background with music. Are you planning to continue in that path, and are you going to sing on the show at all?
Sing on the show? No. my musical background is largely, I studied classical percussion for about 10 years, and then and jazz drum kit. So that was my kind of world that I did. And Ruben Blades, who's on the show, he's obviously huge in the music industry. He's a Latin musician. And when he was definitely wanting to sort of get something together, but I was like, Ruben, I'm not that good anymore. I've had 3 years where I haven't done anything. But no, I mean, I definitely want to keep that part of my life alive. But it's more for myself than for everyone else, I think. I'm not that good.
We have another question in the audience right here.
Hi. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the differences between The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. Thank you.
Sure. Well, from my perspective, because I do love The Walking Dead, but what I really love about Fear the Walking Dead is that specifically the location, because The Walking Dead, it has that rural country kind of vibe. It's all in the woods. It's a little more provincial, those plantation style home in the second season. But with this, it's so urban. And I love that it's given us leeway to explore that, the urban decay and the graffiti and that charm, that gritty charm of LA too, where it's the sunsets and the palm trees, but also homeless kind ofness and everything. Pollution. And so it's also, what's great too is The Walking Dead, it's based on comic books, so you don't have as much creative reign. This, we had so much more to do with than cinematically. The director for 1, 2, and 3, Adam Davidson, what he did create was a real atmosphere, I felt, that was so different to the original. I felt you really get that charm and that oozing culture of LA that's not Hollywood. It's East LA, and it's very real, and I love that we can make it a little bit more art house. Does that when I first saw it, I thought, wow, this is a lot more artistic than
it's a lot more dramatic. It's a lot more dramatic rather than sort of action oriented.
Yes, that's the thing.
And then, the drama is a certain amount of action, but it's not as sort of heavy on the gore. If you will.
Yeah, and I think like The Walking Dead, it had such specific pinpoints in it, like the way that, you know, Rick Grimes is sheriff and he's got an action hero persona already crafted, and you've got, I remember at Comic-Con someone asked about specific costume detailing that become so connected to the character, like Michonne's machetes or Daryl's hat or something like that. It was very specific, whereas we're trying to still kind of craft those and find them naturally, which I kind of love. Yeah.
Absolutely. Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
So you have acted in quite a few sci-fi series and projects. Do you have a particular affinity for sci-fi? And have you, do you have that?
Yeah, no, I love sci-fi. I do love sci-fi and fantasy. They're kind of my things, I think. I didn't expect to be doing so much sci-fi, but it turns out I did. I didn't even expect for the 100 to be so sci-fi kind of. I mean, post-apocalyptic definitely. But I also think that whole apocalyptic vibe is so relevant now. Like everything, a lot of films you see now, like Mad Max, Tomorrowland. Like there's so many films out at the moment that are just relevant to an apocalyptic genre.
We're all pretty scared.
Yeah, and it's in the zeitgeist.
There's a lot going on.
Exactly, there's so much, and it's often, you know, human created in many ways. And it's like interesting, like if you think about the 50s, you know, the technology was a source of inspiration and excitement. The Jetsons were like, you know, propelling for human thought and engineering, and now it's like, oh, how many ways can we kill ourselves? And which is a little dark, but it is. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah, was that
it
really?
was so
really
tempting to just wrap it right there and just be like, that's it.
And we're gonna die.
Let's take one more question.
Hi.
So because this is sort of a prequel series and we know where this horrible apocalypse goes, how do you see your character adapting to that, and which character do you think from The Walking Dead she'd most relate to?
I think Maggie is my relatable character, if I had to pick one. I think they get along really well, actually. She'd probably see her as like a big sister vibe, which she would like. In terms of, what was the other part of that question?
Just sort of how your character would react
Oh,
to
yeah.
seeing the minor apocalypse.
That's right.
And the big one.
Yeah, how she would adapt. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. I feel like she could go, without spoiling anything, I think there are two different paths, potentially. There's like that idea that, you know, she has the most to lose out of everyone because she has those ambitions. You know, she wants to get out of LA, and it's about starting afresh. She's in a really difficult family situation. So for her, it's that hope to then hopelessness. That's a huge drop to make for any human being. And I think with that, you either, whether she rises to the occasion and uses that resilience to then actually make her a very stoic and resilient person, or whether that destroys her. I'm not sure, because they do go script to script, and I mean, I kind of have a hint of where it's going, but
Where's it going?
I can't tell you.
Oh man.
But I mean, yeah, it is interesting. Like, does that, like, or even if that stoicness, if that turns bad instead of good. Because it's not like, I think Travis played by Cliff Curtis, he is the good guy, you know, he always wants to see the best in people, and often that doesn't necessarily work in this world. And so for her, I don't know if it's like, I mean, do you go with the bad and you run with it, or do you try and like be the good guy? I don't know.
I don't know either. I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure
Thanks for
talking to
having
you.
me.
Congratulations on the show.
Thanks.